Homefront The Revolution is a generic military shooter with a potentially cool plot, ruined by the game's repetitive missions and absurd amount of glitches and bugs. Homefront The Revolution takes place in an alternative 2029 reality, where the United States government has been taken over by a group of North Koreans. You play as a silent protagonist named Ethan Brady, who is trying to start a resistance movement in hopes of creating a revolution to take the country back. Most of the game takes place in New Philadelphia, where North Korea's police army known as the KPA have taken over each of the state's districts. The civilians of the districts live in constant fear of the KPA, and it's up to you to inspire them to take their home back. Homefront's gameplay is all first-person shooter. You can purchase weapons from stations along with attachments that'll customize your weapons, for example turning something like a pistol into an SMG. There's equipment that'll aid you on your missions as well, like a hacking device to get into the KPA's military equipment, firecrackers to distract enemies, and molotovs to light up the night. The districts are beautiful and they show you the amazing visuals of the New Philadelphia. You explore torn down districts, jails, and wastelands of what used to be cities. Sadly, the travel that sort of weaves together the traveling between the districts is really boring and extremely generic. Each district can be simplified into some repetitive missions, like causing havoc for the KPA in order to inspire civilians to start a revolution, a single narrative mission, and then a few fetch quests, and that's really about it. Once you're done, you travel to a new district and you repeat the process, and eventually the game just ends. Personally, I think the whole Red Dawn-like plot is really awesome, but in this case it's just not really executed to the best it can be. The characters are bland and they didn't really catch my interest at all. The game at times represents situations about whether you're doing the right thing, but as Ethan Brady, you're just a silent protagonist and you just do as you're told. There's no real character to him. The supporting characters are always angry and talking over each other and yelling. They really don't have any depth either. Now I realize every game has a glitch or two in it, but Homefront The Revolution is by far the buggiest game I've played this year. On console the game targets 30 frames per second, but drops significantly on both consoles. I have to address that the game runs better on Xbox One, but not by much. On PS4 the game usually runs at about 20 to 25 frames per second, and on Xbox One it runs at about 24 to 28 frames per second, but both have crazy drop in frames where they drop down to the low 15 frames. The PS4 version also runs at a native 1080p while the Xbox One version runs at 900p. As expected, the PC version is much better, reaching both a higher resolution and a much better frame rate depending on your hardware. It just seems that this game was extremely poorly optimized for consoles. Now despite the motion sickness inducing gameplay that comes with the low frame rate and fast-paced shooters, there's a ton of other bugs. Whenever I'd open a door, my hand would clip through the door, and that's not really something that's game breaking, but just a minor thing I saw. After I would light up a vehicle to explode, the flames would remain rendered mid-air, and they were just floating there in the middle of the street. There were also floating signs in the middle of the road, and civilians were clipping through the entire game. Anytime I'd reach a checkpoint, let's say buying a new weapon, respawning, or entering a new district area, I'd be hit with a loading screen that would literally freeze the game for 3 to 5 seconds. This probably wouldn't be as annoying if it didn't happen so constantly. For example, during the first Heart and Mind sections, where you have to inspire civilians to revolt, I constantly died due to the lack of ammo when trying to take over the KPA bases. Now these enemy AI are pretty dumb usually. I can literally walk right in front of them and they won't see me. However, in hordes along with tanks and police drones, they can be quite a pain. Considering I died a few times during my first Heart and Mind mission, I must have gone through minutes of the loading screen in total after all those respawns. The bugs and glitches just caused me so much frustration and motion sickness to the point where I didn't want to play the game anymore, though I had to for this review. At that point, the game literally became a chore to play, something that was no longer fun. And it's with that I have to say I don't recommend Homefront The Revolution. The game has potential in terms of the plot, but it's executed poorly and the gameplay would probably be fun if it didn't run like an underpowered PS3 game. Perhaps the game's faults could be equated to its crazy development cycle starting at THQ, and then when THQ went out of business, it was sold to Deep Silver. Maybe Deep Silver didn't have the resources to finish the unfinished game, who knows, but they definitely did ship out a very poorly optimized game, to the point of me not wanting to play it, and that's considering that I got the game for free for review. I can't imagine someone going out and spending $60 on this game, and then actually having to play it. That is just absurd. Thank you all very much for watching this review of Homefront The Revolution. Hopefully those of you that were on the fence of buying the game saw this review before you bought it, that way you could save yourself the pain and money. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to smack a like button and subscribe for more video content like this, more reviews and video game content in general. As always, all my social network links and video game usernames are in the description below. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.